Stop Now, a social experiment enterprise.
Hello and welcome to Stop Now. I'm Nate.
Hello there, I'm Melissa.
And Melissa, we have got a great show this week. We are back. It's the end of the year and there's a lot of excitement in the air.
Yes, Nate, we're looking forward to a new year and put behind all the troubles and the suffering,
Mm,
hopefully. But still, it's a long way to go. Um, don't you think? But before we go into it, Nate, your
mm,
Christmas sweater, I
yes.
love it. I have to comment. Look
So,
at you. Tell
see,
us about your sweater.
you wore your sweater last week, Melissa, so I figured it was only fair that I wore my crazy Christmas sweater this week. And this is a shirt from the guys over at the Post Wrestling podcast. These are guys that I work with, and they sent this as a token of their appreciation. So I appreciate those guys. And yes, it keeps me warm here, Melissa.
Oh
Now that
my
the temperature's starting to drop a little bit, I can walk around with my Christmas
gosh.
sweater.
Definitely. I love it. I love it. So like I was saying, we got a long way to go, but
Mm.
yes, it's New Year. It's almost here, Nate. It's almost here.
Yeah. Well, but before we look forward, though, Melissa, I think this week we should probably look back and let's rewind some of the big topics that we discussed in 2020 here at Stop Now.
Absolutely, definitely. Can we check and see if we're having any guests today? JK, are we
Mm.
having any guests?
Hello, Nate, Melissa. I'm here, and that's all I know. Uh, we may have some callers join. I'm not sure about that, or that might be a surprise. A special guest might show up. That's how like we have been doing it. So we didn't get enough time to prepare for it today. Actually, I'm so sorry on that, but
Not
still we can work that out.
I was gonna say, JK, don't worry about it, JK. I feel like this is the Christmas season, so who knows? We might get a holiday surprise at the end of the show. But either way, JK, like we're gonna have fun this week. Melissa, we're gonna have fun this week, and whatever comes up, we'll be able to handle it.
That's right, Nate. We are prepared to handle anything. If 2020 has taught us anything, we got to stay on our toes and stay
Yep.
ready.
Seriously? Are we? Shall we list out the good, bad, and the ugly of
Ooh,
2020?
that's a great idea. And you know what? Maybe we should title all our shows going forward, like the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think that's a great title for 2020 and everything that's happened.
Absolutely. Volunteers are welcome to join us. This is a great opportunity for anyone interested in doing good. You'll be paid for the work,
Mm.
rewarded in a reasonable amount based on the time.
Yeah, and for those that are looking, maybe to change things up in 2021 or looking to gain some experience, I think like that's a great way to get involved and get your experience while also helping folks at the same time. So looking back at 2021, see, I'm already looking forward, Melissa. I'm looking forward. I need to be looking backwards this week. When we talk about 2020, I think there were a lot of big stories this year. Whether we're talking about the pandemic, which kind of cast a shadow over everything, whether we're talking about racism in America, whether we're talking about the election, that was a big story for most of 2020, or even here on Stop Now, where we had such great stories, from folks that are telling us their experiences with the H-1B visa or human trafficking and how we can help folks, improve when they're caught in situations like that. So I feel like we've had a lot to talk about and think about this year on Stop Now, Melissa.
We sure did. We had some really good moments here. We had some stuff that had me really think like, I never thought of it that way. It really opened my eyes up to a
Hmm.
whole new world out here. So this has definitely been an eye-opening year. And we've had some great shows, Nate. Like, even though we've only been doing this for a few weeks, like it seems like we've all been bonded together for some time now. Like, and that what was it, like our Thanksgiving theme one?
Yeah.
Like I was really feeling emotional by the end of that. I said, wow, this is really like a new family for me. I am
Mm.
loving this. I'm so happy to be a part of Step Now. So yes, it was that was probably one of my top moments that we've had so far. Like to be able to have everybody was from so many different areas, so many
Mhm.
different time zones, so many different nationalities. Like we all have different religion. It was just so many, just all together on one, like the Brady Bunch with the different screens and all that. That
Yes,
was
yes.
a really good highlight for me.
Love that visual. Like, yeah, we should just have everybody like in those Brady Bunch squares, and then JK can pop up in the middle like Alice.
I'd love
uh,
it.
but yeah, Melissa, I think when you talk about 2020, obviously with the pandemic, there's a lot of bad and a lot of ugly. When you think about how many lives were lost because of the coronavirus. When you think about just the
Yeah.
economy in America and around the world that was damaged by the COVID-19 crisis. But if there was any good, Melissa, if there was any silver lining with COVID this year, I think it was what you just said. Like, even though folks are more spread apart, or at least they should be spread apart, I think because of like technology and things of that nature, we've been able to connect. And even though like I haven't been around my friends as much as I have been in years past, I think I've probably actually sat down and talked and
Yeah.
listened to my friends more and my family more than I have in
Mhm.
years past, because we're all kind of trying to figure out this same situation together.
Right. That's so true. And this year, it's really, you're in, it's so easier said than done. Like, oh, this person should just go out and get a job and they shouldn't be on unemployment. Like the unemployment rate this year has been
Mm,
ridiculous. Or the people that are in forced labor, you get to really put yourself in their
yeah.
shoes this year. It's been a whole different, like, I like when Martina came on a few weeks ago and she
Mm,
said, like, with this year, with how bad it was a bad year, like all around, but you're able to look at it from somebody else's shoes like a little bit more, and you're able to appreciate what they go through a little bit more, and it makes you more understanding, and it has people have more conversations that they wouldn't have had before. So this year has been something, but I like
mm.
that we are having more conversations that we didn't have before, and now we can have more solutions because people are talking more.
Yeah, I think what this pandemic has kind of revealed, Melissa, is it's revealed stuff that was already there. And one of those
Mhm.
things we'll talk about is kind of America and its relation with race.
Right.
But I think one of the things that has been interesting is I feel like we've learned this year that people, and when I say people, I'm generally talking about Americans here. We've learned that people are more selfish than we thought they were, like, because a lot of people couldn't even do the simplest things to try to flatten the curve of the disease.
Right.
But we've also
Yeah.
learned that folks are maybe more caring and more empathetic than we thought they were too, because you've
Hmm.
seen communities start to come together. And you see on the news the pictures of the food lines and people
Yes.
who have never had to be in a situation like that, where they're hungry or they're missing meals, and you see the community kind of working together. I was watching uh TV this morning, and they had this program with a woman, I believe in Dallas, and she was just, talking about how she helped feed the kids out there who, when school was in session, the school lunch was maybe the
Amazing.
only meal they'd have that day because of their
Right.
family's finances. And so, with everybody not being in school, she's going out with the rest of the cafeteria staff and feeding these kids during this thing. So I feel like, yeah, we've learned there's a lot of selfish people out there, Melissa, but we've also learned there's a lot of good people out here, and they have kind of really stepped up during this
Right.
crisis.
Definitely. People have really opened their arms, their hearts, and their homes. I was watching something about there was these families. There was this one woman, she had a husband that was a doctor. He's in the hospital. She was afraid for him to come back into the house. So one of her neighbors actually gave her an RV. And then they just
Mm,
started this whole RV thing. So there's like different families who, they have people who are very close with, COVID patients, and they don't want them to come back in the house, of course, to spread the virus to the rest of their family. So they started this whole foundation to just donate RV. I thought that was just so cool. It's
mm.
just, see how creative people got
Yes,
this
yeah.
year, and how their compassion and their creativity negativity spread this year. It was really something to look at. You're right. We have seen some real selfish people this year, but to see how, their generosity just spread this year, that also was really good. I really
Well, it's like I love that you talked about, just kind of people finding creative solutions, because that's one of the things we talked about last week with James. When we sat down and spoke with James and Barbara, just how we're using technology in different ways, and we're finding different solutions and workarounds to get things done, because regardless of whether we're in the middle of a crisis or not, we still got to get things done. People still have to find ways to put food on the table, and take care of the kids and take care of the elderly. And so just kind of seeing folks get creative and think outside the box, it's been one of the bright spots in a year that's been really dark for a lot of people because of COVID.
Definitely. Yes, it's very creative this year. And a lot of people that I wouldn't see using technology, Zoom, Google Duo, these meetings. And I'm like, oh, look at you on there. Because they have to, they got to do their therapy. They got school. They got church. They got, different just regular doctor's appointments. So it's interesting to see how it seems like it was so long ago that this whole thing started, but I mean, it's less than a year that everything just changed the way that it has, and we found a way to somewhat adjust. So it's been something this year.
That's how wild this whole thing has been, Melissa, because you can actually pick out different kind of chapters in this whole crisis, because you go back, like I think March to summer was one chapter, because we all felt like, at least a lot of us felt like, okay, the government will fix things. Like, the current administration isn't great, but this is the time where government will step up and help the people, and they didn't. And so what we thought might end in the summer continued through the fall and now through the winter. And so it's like we're still here, Melissa, which is frustrating. I think when you look at how we could have done things as a nation to get things on track. But on the other hand, like the fact that a lot of us are still here when so many people, unfortunately, weren't able to, see the day.
Right.
I feel like, I know there's a lot of people out there who are probably frustrated and angry and depressed. But the fact that you're here, right? The fact that you're out there watching this show, that you're watching Stop Now this week, like that's a good thing. That's something that, it might not be perfect. The world isn't where we want it to be, but as long as we're here, we can work to make change, Melissa.
Absolutely. So I see some breaking news here.
Breaking news.
I have a video.
As we were working on the Stop Now Foundation on various topics, right? So the last couple of episodes, we were trying to bring in some real stories, true stories of people, how they are affected. And some of them like had hesitation in providing the evidence and documents for us, like to seek justice on behalf of them. But one volunteer, like he agreed to it. Hopefully the others who have interest in will come up. So we have made a small compilation of those documents so that we can put it out, and we are trying to reach out to the other party to ask the questions, relevant questions, and find a solution to it. Like maybe 2021 will provide us that. So I would play this if you mind. Okay, so then I will connect with the team, and we will see like how we can explore that. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So this is something like very hard for us, like to make the compilation. The reason being, we have to protect the identity of the victim and the person who agreed to tell the story also was hesitant. Like if you notice that, like I was interviewing him for almost 1 hour, and he was not comfortable coming online. And then he said, like, I will share the documents. You decide how you want to present that. And later on, he agreed to even talk on. Hopefully, we will get that coming soon in the next weeks or so. And I believe, like, you might remember one of the uh, person who joined our show as a caller and a guest. He agreed to volunteer with us and do some shows.
Oh,
So
okay.
the good news is I'm getting a special uh, separate show on this platform. Like, so that is one thing. Like, we are trying to work out with him to see like how we can use this platform to raise their voices, like because we know that like the non-immigrants and those who are on H-1B visa, and particularly Indian community are highly impacted, and why they feel that like this is a modern slavery. And this project itself is an initiative of them, so it is done by the Indians for the Indians. So we as such like have to reevaluate like what is wrong with the United States and why Americans are doing this. So that is the intention of our campaign. So we will support and stand by that. So we are trying to reveal the story more authentic way and get the right answers. So let's see like how that turns out. And we have lined up with a whole lot of guests in the coming weeks. We are
Yes.
almost booked for 2 months, I would say, on
Yes.
human
Good work,
trafficking,
JK.
domestic violence. Thank you. I know that like without you both, I would not have the opportunity to do it myself. And it's all our teamwork. I would
Yep.
appreciate everyone like who are contributing it and doing this together.
It's a great team.
And I like Melissa like that. That's how you know when a show is doing well. We already got a great spinoff coming. Like this. It's like Cheers and Frasier. It's like oh, it's like Chicago Hope
I
and
love
Chicago
it.
PD.
Yay, I'm excited.
But yes, that's
Expansion
gonna
is
be
always
a
good.
great show. We're looking forward to seeing that because like JK was saying, like there's so many issues that need to be addressed, and so like that's another avenue for people that need help and need answers and need to find justice. Like just like he was talking about the gentleman in the video. Like there's a lot of injustice going on in the world, and
Absolutely.
and so whatever we can do to help that here at Stop Now, that's why we're here.
Absolutely. And there's so many people that don't know what they can do. And there's so much information out there, and try to shuffle through all that and figure out what's
Mm,
what. This is just a great platform to be able to come to and watch. And, we have professionals that can come in here and answer the questions that people may have that they're scared to come forward and ask themselves, or
yeah.
they may have a form of a question kind of similar to that, or they know somebody in a similar situation. So this is just an amazing platform. We're able to connect people and network and help answer questions and help solve issues, like that guy from a few weeks ago, the
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And I really want to know what goes on with that, with his job hiring him and then fire him again. So that's another situation right there, like the letters that JK just showed us. So
Hmm.
this is a wonderful way for us to be able to help any way we can, so we can stop the injustice in this
Yeah.
country.
Well, speaking of injustice, Melissa, that kind of leads us to a next topic because uh, this year we not only had to deal with the pandemic of the coronavirus, but we also had to deal with a sickness America's had for a long time, Melissa. It's a pre-existing condition, I guess you could say, in this country, and that's America's relationship with race. And it feels almost like 2 or 3 years ago when this happened, just the way 2020's been. But thinking back to the summer
Right.
and everything circling around the murder of George Floyd, and the killing, senseless killing of Breonna Taylor, and some of the other names of black men and women that aren't here because of interactions with the police. And we saw, I think, Melissa, we kind of saw more people getting awakened and their eyes open to what's going on. But at the end of the day, like, what do you think out of 2020? Like, is are we gonna be able to move forward? Are there gonna be lasting effects, or was this just a moment and it'll pass?
That's what I used to think too, Nate. I said, man, this is not just a hashtag. This isn't something for Nickelodeon just to throw on, because I mean, the companies, they were blacking out on that
Yep.
Tuesday, and they have their disclaimer, we stand Black Lives Matter. And then, the summer things started to fizzle out. And I said, it's still a problem just because it's not on the news every day, just because we're not posting it all over the place. It's not a problem. But talking to different people, there's this woman, she is white, that I spoke to the other day, and she just was so sweet, and it was very random, but she said, I think it's just horrible what the police have been doing. This is wrong. And she was just went on into how different family members, she wasn't talking to them because they, felt, and she was she's an older woman. She's not from this time. And I think sometimes the older people, they're like stuck in their ways a little bit. So it's a little bit harder to try to make a change. But I was like, you oh really? Okay. So I feel like, we're not there yet, but I think this year definitely made some waves to some people, and I think it has a lasting effect to some. So hopefully that spreads and it continues.
Yeah, that you're not going to be able to change everybody's mind. You're not going to be able to change everybody's hearts. We've seen, like, through this year with the election, like, there's a percentage of the country that is always going to think the way they think, at least right now.
Right.
We got to still keep working and fighting to try to change people's hearts and minds. But, those people are where they are right now. But there's a lot of people in that middle ground who,
Right.
might not have been racist or might not have been prejudiced or bigoted, but they just didn't understand what
Right.
black people and people of color were asking for all these years. And this year they're like that, maybe that lady that you talked to, like, oh wow, like, this is not okay. This is not how things are supposed to be. This is not America. This is not what America should be, at least. And so, like, I think this is something that's always going to be an issue in this country, and until we finally fix it. Like, and I don't know when that's going to happen, Melissa. Like, I might be 80 years old. I might not even be here when it
Be
finally
going.
gets fixed. But I feel like at least this year they feels like there's something different in the air. And maybe it's because you had that 1-2 punch of, okay, everybody's going through this collective crisis, and then also look at this, like, we can't turn away. It's on all the news channels, and it happened in a time where sports weren't going on. The NFL wasn't going on. The NBA wasn't going on. Baseball hadn't started yet. So I feel like it happened almost, as bad as it sounds to say, Melissa, it almost happened at the right time for people to actually finally see what's going on, and how law enforcement has interacted with black people for so long.
That is true, Nate. They really had not many other options but to watch. Like, there's only so many things you can watch on Netflix before you don't want to watch that anymore. So, to look on the news and like, oh wow, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening. So it was very in your face this year, but it's necessary. So I'm hoping for change. And like you said, Nate, it may not be in our lifetime, but we have to start somewhere. So hopefully we will have the justice that we need in this country very, very soon. We all need to, hopefully one day.
Yes. Well, speaking of justice, Melissa, let's go from injustice to justice, because one of the things that I had my eyes opened up to this year, from working here with everybody on the team at Stop Now, is just how prevalent a problem not only the H-1B visa situation was, but also when we spoke about human trafficking
Mm-hmm.
And like I think the conversations we've had, particularly, you talk about with Martina, like the
Mm-hmm.
conversations about human trafficking and stories like that, it's something that, yes, I've heard of it, but it never really was something front of mind. But doing shows like this and working
Right.
with, folks like you and JK and the rest of the team, it's like, oh, like this is stuff that is actually happening, and we need
Mm-hmm.
to work to find a solution and find justice for these folks. So, how is working with Stop Now this year, Melissa? How has that kind of maybe changed the way you have looked at some things?
That's really good question, Nate. Like when we were talking with Martina, it just seems like when I hear human trafficking initially, the first thing I think of is just like the sexual abuse type of thing,
Hmm.
the sex slaves and all that. So to think of it in a different way, there's families that are, stuck in this labor. They have to do this, and they know that they have to provide for their family, but these corporations, they're just getting over on them in these crazy ways. Like it's definitely opening my eyes. And then since COVID came and I've seen other people, you have these companies and they'll say, okay, if you don't feel safe, go ahead, you can go home, you can keep your job. But then when the person actually tries to do it, oh no, you can leave if you want to, but you're going to get fired. And these people are under this crazy pressure. So now
Yeah.
I'm finally able to see, a little bit more firsthand where people who are in forced labor are coming from. Like it's definitely been a huge eye opener since I started this show.
Yeah, I think like Melissa, like because we've talked about this. Like I think when you're black in America, like there's always a level of suspicion with
Mm,
the government and with corporations, and so like I'm I'm used to just like not trusting these big corporations. But then when like when we talked about some of these stories, like the gentleman you brought up from a couple weeks ago, who relocated,
yeah.
was hired, then fired, and rehired, and it's like when you take kind of that usual kind of corporate nonsense, and then you add
Hmm.
on to it the level of now we're dealing with people that are here on a visa, and it's
Hmm.
like it's bad enough when corporations kind of jerk people around in the first place, but when you got somebody who they're not sure if they'll be able to provide for their family or if they'll even be able to stay in the country, like that's a whole nother kind of level of just fear, I think, for people in that situation that, yes, like
Absolutely.
I've experienced like bad bosses and bad businesses, but I've never had to be scared that, oh, just because I get fired, I'm going to get kicked out of America. Like that's something that's never crossed my mind, Melissa.
Right. I can't even imagine the fear, the uncertainty, the overwhelming anxiety that people go through consistently. Like this is a
Mm.
huge thing that it's not playing on the news crazy. Like, not to say that Black Lives Matter. We've got the play that it needed finally, but things like this, we don't see things like this. Like this
No.
isn't a conversation that you hear about often. Like now that I'm a part of this show and I'm able to spread this onto my social media, like I got the conversation starting with a lot of people that I know that never
Mhm.
even would have considered anything like this. They weren't, because they are from America, so they're like, well, what do I got to think about it for? That's
Yeah.
not how it works. I mean, that's just like with racism. People that aren't the same color, they're like, well, it's not my problem. It can't be like that. So this has been a great opportunity for me to see things in a bigger picture.
Mm. Yeah, and like talking about that bigger picture, going back to that Thanksgiving episode, like just seeing, the whole team, or not the whole team, but a lot of our fellow team members, and just connecting all around the globe, and it
All over.
just kind of brings it back to what you're saying, Melissa. Like just because a problem doesn't directly affect me, it doesn't mean that I shouldn't help. It's
Absolutely.
just like when like if you talk about Black Lives Matter, like it's not up to black people just to solve the problem themselves. It takes everybody, white people, Latino people, everybody, kind of working together. And the same thing with this, in terms of ending modern day slavery. Like it's not just an Indian problem, or it's not just a problem from somebody off in Africa. Like it's everybody's job, to kind of work together and make sure that these injustices are stopped, and that these companies are held accountable. Because I think that's the big is that a lot of these corporations just kind of get away with what they want because they know there's no consequence. Whereas now, like the more that we talk about it, the more that we bring folks on to tell their stories, the more we bring,
Mhm.
guests on that have expertise in how to fight this legally. I feel like then you start to kind of chip away little by little at the power that these
Right.
big companies have.
Absolutely. You're definitely stronger in numbers. The more we get together and we help each other, we have to unite with each other.
See, I,
And
I
then,
thought you were
yes.
getting ready to start singing, Melissa. The more we get together, the happier we'll be. I thought that's where you was
No,
going with
not this time, Nate. I'll sing another show, okay? But
Oh,
absolutely, that's completely right.
see, I
But what
thought
a
you were gonna
year.
bless us with some more Mariah Carey from last week.
I mean, if that's what you're asking for, Nate, I don't mind.
um, but it's funny, Melissa, because I think work together
Hmm.
to get whether it's COVID or racism in America or the human trafficking or the H-1B situation. Like it's one person or one group of people aren't going to be able to solve it all, and that kind of leads me to the next topic of 2020, Melissa, and that was the election. Like there's big thing. Like, I mean, there's some people, I'm not going to say who, I'm not going to point fingers. There's some people out there, maybe some person out there who still thinks that the election result isn't finalized, but we do have a new president-elect and vice president-elect with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And, like we talked about, the show after the election results were kind of finally certified, Melissa. Like the president and the vice president, like they don't solve everything magically when they walk in office. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but
Absolutely.
at least now we'll have an administration that is more open to listening to people than the current administration.
Absolutely. Because the current was not trying to hear anything, whether it made sense or not, whether it was
Mm.
facts or not. So to have somebody or people in office who have some more sense and are willing to listen, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah, because that to me, Melissa, is the biggest failure from this administration. And I'm not saying like one side is right, one side is wrong, even though I think we can objectively say one side was more right than the
Wink,
other.
wink.
But I feel like if Donald Trump had decided to step up in this moment and really work hard to get rid of, to combat coronavirus and really
Mhm.
work hard to make sure that people had money in their pocket, I feel like even if I didn't vote for this man, I can respect him because he's doing
Mhm.
the job of a president. Whereas what we got, Melissa, was a guy that didn't want anything to do with fixing the problem. He's like back in the day when you used to do like a group project,
Mhm.
like you had 3 or 4 people in the group and only one person or 2 people did all the work, but then you had that one kid that wanted all the credit. That's Trump. Like he didn't want to do any of the work in fixing things and helping folks during the coronavirus, but he wanted all the credit at the end of the day.
That is amazing to watch him and to watch his Twitter. I say, why does he have an account anymore? I'm just so done to see the comments that he makes. But if I ever want to get a good laugh in, I will check his Twitter account to see what kind of foolishness are you
Mm.
saying today that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna come out and say we need to put $2,000 in the hands of American people. Like you could have said that 6 months ago. You could have said that 7 months ago when the first CARES Act ran out. And so it's like you got somebody again, Melissa. He wants all the credit. He wants all the fame from being the president. But like this is not a job for somebody that's not serious. And like I have disagreements with some of the things that Joe Biden has said and done over the his history, but at least
Mhm.
I know he's going to be serious about the job, and maybe we can all kind of start to work together and fix this thing because we're still gonna be dealing with COVID next year. Like it just because the calendar turns over, like Rona's still gonna be here, Melissa.
It's gonna be here, and we got these vaccines they're passing out, but it's still going to be here.
Yeah.
It's not even like it's enough for everybody if everybody wants to take them. I not 100% on board just yet. I got to see, over time. But
all I know is when I do take it, I want the one Fauci got, because if it's good enough for Dr. Fauci, it's good enough for me, Melissa.
all right now.
At best, right? Like if in the most optimistic kind of prediction, it's going to be at least spring, summer before we get everybody vaccinated. Probably not even then. You're probably talking into the fall before
Right.
we get all the people vaccinated that need to be vaccinated. And so, yeah, like you still need to do the small things, social
Absolutely.
distancing, washing your hands, cough into your elbow, wear a mask, like, and I feel like just that's what we've learned maybe this year, Melissa, is Americans aren't good at following directions. At least some of us aren't good at following directions.
No, as a whole, it's just so interesting. By the summertime, it was like, oh, we're tired of this. We don't want to do this anymore. COVID's over. No, it's not. But we just got bored, I guess, as a whole, and said, you know what, we're gonna do what we want to do. And that is so dangerous on so many levels. So hopefully, now that it's flu season and these numbers are going crazy again, people are going to start to take it serious, as they should, all over again, like we were back in March. I don't want nobody to touch me. Don't touch me.
But yeah, it was like I know we're in the Christmas season. That's why I'm wearing my fancy sweater, Melissa. Like I know, like people want to be around their families, and be in these big gatherings. But we've got to stop. We've got to hold off on that for a little while. I think if we can get through the winter, like if we can be smart as a country, get through the winter, let the frontline workers and the essential workers get vaccinated. Like I feel like we might be able to turn this thing around, Melissa.
Yeah.
But again, it's gonna come down to people caring and not being
Yeah.
selfish. Because and again, I'm not saying it's wrong for people to want to see their families and hang out, but we've got
Those
to
huge gatherings can't happen. They
they
cannot.
can't. Like we've got to work together to get this thing under control so that next year,
Yes.
next Christmas we can have the big, huge gathering and just go all the way with it. Once everybody's through this pandemic. But right now we just got to be smart, everybody.
Yeah, sacrifices have to be made so we can look into the future, and then we can have normalcy or some sort of that again. But it's not going to happen if we're 20 deep inside of a Christmas dinner and New Year's Eve party. It's just not going to work out the way that people would like it to.
No,
So
unfortunately not. So I guess before we start to wrap things up this week, Melissa, what's any other memories from this year, in the country or on this show that brings a smile to your face?
for one, the fact that I got to be part of the show, thank you. I appreciate everyone who had a hand in selecting me. Thank you so much. And just being able to connect with different people that I, over here in the East Coast would not have been able to talk to ever. So it's just been really nice to be able to talk to different people, hear their stories, their different situations, and watch connections be made. Like last week when we had the two guests who had two completely different walks of life. They came together and she said, "Can I get your information? I know somebody who'd be interested." Like, that was beautiful. I loved it. So that was just like a really nice moment for me to watch. And we're just going to keep seeing that. It's just going to be so much more of that in store in the next year coming. So I'm excited and I'm so happy to be a part of this. How about you?
We're glad you're here, Melissa. I feel like it's the team aspect, and that's the biggest thing that I could say for 2020. Like we're all going through this terrible year, but working together makes you don't have to carry everything by yourself. And so kind of working here with JK and yourself and the team, like it's been really fun. It's been unexpected. I didn't know what to expect. When I joined the show, but this has been very fun. And you talk about the guests. I think that's something that I've really enjoyed is whether last week talking with, Barbara and James or some of the other guests that we've had, or the Thanksgiving show, just getting to hear different people's points of view. You know, we're not always going to agree on everything, but having that conversation, I think, is necessary. And I'm looking forward to next year because I know a couple of the guests that JK's been working on, and so like the folks out there, it's going to be really fun and informative. Is what I almost said entertaining, but I guess it could be entertaining and informative at the
It's
same
got to be
time.
entertaining at the same time. You know, for
Yes.
people to want to watch it, it has to be entertaining, but at the same time, it's very informative.
Yes. So yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm thankful that you know, I'm here with you guys, and you know that my agent, you know, they made the calls and I got to hook up to be on the show. But with that, speaking of, you know, the show, like I feel like before we end things this week, Melissa, we should probably give a couple seconds to, you know, the guy that keeps the show running, and that's
Absolutely.
our buddy JK. JK, anything you want to say to the people before we leave?
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Melissa. That's been a wonderful ride for us. And though it is just a beginning, I would say, like, you really mentioned it, like, in a quote that I can't recollect. It's not the end for us. So as 2021 is approaching, we wanted to wish you all, like everyone, you and your family, a special and happy, healthy holiday season, surrounded by your loved ones, and keep safe and stay safe. As we set a new goal, we have to remind ourselves and remember that, like, we have to being kind to ourselves, and that's the most important resolution we all can make, right? So no matter what the next year holds, we don't know that. The future is always like a puzzle, and we'll be there to support each one of them with their journey in the best way possible. So on that note, I would say, like, a very prosperous and happy new year from all of us at Stop Now. And it's a good initiative that brought us all together. So I hope, like, we can find more interesting stories to share to the world and problems to solve. And I like that thing, like, can we be able to change the people's mindset, as Melissa was mentioning, right? So people become rigid when they grow older, or when they come across trauma or mental or sexual abuse, domestic violence. So many things are happening, and that is where how we are going to tie. You are right, Nate. We can title our show with topics like modern slavery and how it relates to religion, and people who are non-believers. I mean, how do they fit into the secular world, and how Black community is being viewed in that. So many other topics are there for us to talk. It will be fun, and definitely we can make it more entertaining in the next year.
Sounds good. Yes, I'm excited, Melissa. You know, like JK was saying, like, this is the end for 2020, but we'll be back next year with lots more topics, a lot more stories, and lots of great guests that you know, can have. We can all kind of work together to find answers, because at the end of the day, that's what, you know, we're all about, is finding answers, finding solutions, and helping people.
Absolutely, Nate. And I just can't wait. I'm so excited. So, oh gosh, I guess this is about it,
Melissa's
guys.
looking at the watch.
It's that time, but thank you so much for watching. Make sure you guys get on our channel and subscribe, and bye for now.
Yes. Yeah, bye for everybody here. And again, like Melissa was saying, subscribe to the channel. And if you have questions, if you have stories, if you need answers, reach out to the team, and JK and the team will get you guys in contact with the right people. So I guess that's it, Melissa. So I guess happy holidays, Merry Christmas, be safe, everybody. Social distance, wash your hands, and we'll see you next year. Bye, Melissa.
See you next year.
Stop Now, a social experiment enterprise. Stop, listen, share. Everyone can make a difference. We are on a mission. Everyone should do something greater in their lifetime. Change the future be a proud member. Join us to support, volunteer, and donate.